Okay, starting where we left off, I'm going to do some adjusting here. Just so you can see how big our gap is we have here. So, bring that in. So what I want to do is just bring I just want to bring that corner up to there. And then we can push this back. And then we'll move these over to match. And I'm just going to do the same thing with the jar. Select all of these points. Just move it. Okay, so now we're just going to move on to the actual candle art, beginning on page 170. So in the outliner window, I'm going to change the name of that to glass profile. And then we're going to duplicate it. Sorry. I use Control plus D will duplicate. Or you can go up to the edit menu and duplicate there. So we're going to name this candle profile. And we want to hide this one, so select it in the window outliner and then Control H will hide it in the view. So we're only working with this one. Okay, so now we're going to frame this in. So I'm going to choose curve point. And we'll just click, oops. Just want to click on our edge here, right where it starts to curve, about right where the wax would be in your candle. So once we do that, and it should turn yellow once you release your mount button. So now we're going to go to curves, detach. We should have two objects. One is green now, and then the white one that we just cut off. So this part, we can delete this. We're not going to use it. That just leaves us this curve here. Okay, so now here we are in the front view, and we're just going to, we're going to draw us a line right across through there. Don't have to be perfect here, but we want to be fairly close. We need 4 points. Enter to exit the tool. It gives us our edge. So now we select them both, holding the shift key, select the other curve. And we'll go back up to curves, and we're going to choose attach this time. Go to the edit section. remove the multiple knots and keep the originals. Choose attach. So now we have one single curve. So now using the same settings that we did in the others, just go to surfaces, revolve. Since we're not changing any settings, you don't have to go into the tools. You can just click that and it'll automatically do it. So if we go into, let's see, go into this view, go into X-ray mode, you can see our object inside of there. You can also go up here and remove the lid. And you can see our object is black, so we just want to select that and do the mesh display in reverse to reverse the normals. So there we have our object inside. So the reason we left these curves is we'll be able to edit these curves and it will change the complete object. So if we select this and pull this up, it's going to affect that whole object, as you can see there. Control Z to go back. So we want to unhide this. So select it in the outliner window, hold Shift and H, and that will unhide that object. So now if we want to edit our jar, we can do the same thing. Grab some points, make our jar a little fancy. Just remember, if you do this, you're going to have to recreate this curve and redo your wax so it fills in your jar, so you don't have this square wax piece inside of your jar. So once you're satisfied with your object, we can select all of these curves and we can delete them. So select them all, hold Control down. You can select multiple objects in the outliner window, and we're just going to delete them. Turn our show polygons back on in the front view. F to frame it. So now I'm just going to name my objects. So here we have the jar, there's the lid, and that's a seal. So we're going to group these two together. Sorry. Jar lid. We can delete that curve also. So we have our jar body and the wax. Control G to group those together. And this is a good place to save our scene, so oops. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the detailing part of it. So I'm going to go in here and just select the jar section only, which we can name these jar wax. Same with this one, we can name these lid. Seal. So we're just going to select a jar and hit Control H to hide that. And we're also just going to select that whole group and hide that whole group. So select it and Control H to hide it. And that just leaves our wax object visible. Okay, so the modeling menu today. I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, Sculpting Tools, Sculpt Tool. We're just going to hit the Edit menu here. And I'm going to hit Reset Tool. That's default settings. So really this is going to be huge on our object. close my outliner window. So if we start painting, you can start to see how I pulled up the whole object there, messed everything up. So what I want to do is I'm going to turn that way down. So you can still see how big it is. So Control Z to undo that. A little more like 0.1 here. There we go. So even still, if we would have used the 0.97 at the beginning, it would give us more polygons to work with here, but for this, what we're doing here, it'll be just fine. So I'm using invert, just push and pull stuff around, give us an odd shape on there. You can see it's pretty strong strength, so I'm just going to Control Z out of that and even drop this down to about 0.5. So that's just pulling some of the wax up. And like I said, if we would have used the higher chord strength earlier, we would have had a lot more polygons to work with. Anyway, just paint around it, lift some of those up, hit enter to exit the tool, or select the move tool. And you can see, but once we smooth that out, it won't look near as rough. We'll just get a nice bumpy shape there on the top of our wax. Doesn't have to be special. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in the middle, because I'm going to put a wick right there. So I'm going to go ahead and go to sculpting tools. And I'm going to invert it, and not invert it, sorry. We're just going to see if we can pull this middle section up. And we do want to invert. And that's kind of where I'm going to put my wick at right there. So for our wick, I'm going to go to the front view, create a cylinder, see how big our cylinder is, move it up, let's just scale it down, R key to scale. I'm just going to scale that way down that way. So if I go over here to our cylinder shape, and add some subdivisions in here, I'm going to probably do, let's do 6, done that. It gives us some vertices to play around with. So go to vertex mode, you can just move some of these around, even rotate them a little, use the E key for rotate, just give us some odd shapes. Really won't be able to see it in the front view, but if you go up here you can see we have a little cylinder there for our wick. I'm going to move it up right over that spot and cover that weird looking spot up. Just so we turn some caps on here. It gives a couple more points to work with. Go back to our sculpting tool. I'm going to make this even smaller, so I'm going to go to about 0.025. I'm going to change the strength to about 0.1. We're just going to sculpt on top of our wick here. You can see I pushed that in, I don't want to do that, so Control Z to undo. Make sure that's turned off. strength is still way too high, so let's go to 0.01. And then you can just kind of push and pull those around however you see fit. Maybe push some of the sides down. Just give us some uneven shapes, make it look more natural. So now it's just a matter of grouping, unhiding all of our objects. Name this wick. What I'm going to do is parent it to that wax piece, so I'm going to just drag it right on top of that wax piece. So that way if I ever move the wax piece, the wick moves with it. So to unhide these objects, I'm just going to select them and hit Shift H, and that will unhide all of our objects. So I'm just going to add some simple materials here to give you an idea. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this seal. I'm going to right click, go to Assign New Material, choose a Lambert, and then for the color I'm going to make it just a bright white. Right, so now, oh, I named them wrong. Oops. Okay, so seal, now we have that material made. We can just right click, assign existing material. That's going to be a Lambert, that Lambert 2 that we just applied. Okay, so this white color is okay, but what I really want to do is crank up this transparency so we can see through it. So you can see how we can start to see through that now. Actually, I want to change that to a grayer color. Name that glass. And then we can assign that to jar. Assign existing material, glass. It looks like our seal is taking that material. It is. So let's see if we can assign a new material. Lambert. Right, light. There we can see. That's better. And we want to add one more material for our wick. So we'll right click, assign new material, also Lambert, so make that a dark black or gray. Done. And we can assign a material for our wax. Same thing, assign new material, go with Lambert, select our color wheel. I'm going to go with a reddish. Purple. there you have the candle. You can recreate a whole new candle with a different shape if you like, or you can duplicate this one. If you do duplicate this one, at least change the material of the wax